If you wanted to know all things about how to utilize, how to find, how to employ a virtual assistant on your team to get more done in less time and while saving a few dollars, you are listening to the right episode of the Loan Officer Leadership Podcast. I'm your host, Steve Kiles. We're powered by the Mortgage Marketing Animals. And today I've got a great friend on the podcast. He's actually been on a long time ago, but I wanted to bring you back on because I'm hearing this great conversation about utilizing virtual assistants. And let me just say this, Richard Smith was a part of one of the very first Freedom Club groups 10 years ago when the coaching was just getting launched. He's been coaching members in our organization for 5 years, and Richard has been literally being the catalyst of not only how to find the virtual assistants, but then what can a virtual assistant do? How does it make the life of a loan officer even easier? How do you get more done? I'll tell you this, even as I have been on a journey with virtual assistants, I'm like, Richard, what do we do here? What do I do there? Hey, what's your checklist on this? And so I am excited to have my friend, Richard Smith. What's going on, brother?
Hey man. Hey man, how are you doing?
I am great, and I'm excited to have you because, it's such a great topic, utilizing virtual assistants. I mean, we have all across our organizations, whether it's the marketing animals or my personal production team and even our branch, man, a virtual assistant can help get a lot done.
Yes, true. First, I want to thank you. It's an honor to be on your show here today. But yeah, getting more done and doubling yourself is the key to that. Yes.
Hey, well, tell everybody about your journey and your story. So what got you into virtual assistants? Because literally, and we're going to share this, but it's Remote Assistant Scout. When people in the Freedom Club say, hey, I need a VA, a virtual assistant, who do I go to? We always say Richard Smith. So remoteassistantscout.com. But talk to us about your story. How did you stumble into this whole VA journey?
Yep. So it's funny, 10 years ago when I went to my very first Freedom, well, it wasn't Freedom Club, but it was my very first event with Carl and Tammy. And we had to apply to be part of the Freedom Club, which was a really cool process. But when we were there, we talked about virtual assistants, and it was like one of the first times I've heard of that. And Carl made a comment, the less you do, the more money you make. And I'm like, well, that's interesting. So what I did was I thought, okay, I wrote it down. I'm going to hire a virtual assistant. So I got back to Texas, and I implemented that on Monday. I put an ad. I went searching for a VA. I hired one, had her working for me for a week or two. It was horrible. She was falling asleep. She wasn't doing the right things. So what I ended up doing was firing her, hiring another one, and that one didn't work out. So I kept going because this, honestly, Steve, the biggest mistake we make is we don't keep trying. Like we give up and say, oh, that doesn't work. But when we know those strategies work. So then I hired my third one, and that was Gerard, and he was just a great addition to our team. So he's a VA in the Philippines, and over the years, we've worked together for 10 years. He helps me run Remote Assistant Scout now because he knows the Freedom Club inside and out. He knows what loan officers need with the VA. So that's kind of the story with that.
Hey, well, there's a couple of things you've said which are almost mic drops, and I want people to catch this. Two things. And I love that phrase, the less you do, the more money you make.
Yeah.
It doesn't speak to laziness. It just speaks to one's too small a number to achieve greatness. I'll never forget hearing John Maxwell talk about that. He always has talked about building teams and the power of teams, because when you do that, Richard, we leverage our time.
Right.
It's not, can I do more? Because, and this has been a big mindset shift for many of our listeners, is this: more does not equate to more time.
Yep.
Richard, what happens is people say, hey, I'd love to double my income, but I can't work any more hours.
Exactly. Yeah. It's leveraging good people to help you.
That's it. Well, and it really is a
Yeah.
mindset shift in what we've got to do. Hey, so talk about this. How, like, if somebody's listening, they say, okay, I want to consider hiring a VA. Number one, how do I do it? Number two, what can or what do they do?
Sure. Yeah. So if somebody's wanting to hire a VA out of the Philippines, there's websites they could go to. There's onlinejobs.ph where they can, put an ad out and try to find some. There's Remote Assistant Scout where basically all the vetting and everything's done for you. But there's a lot of places you can go to hire and find a VA. And then what do you have them do? I always look at it this way. I want to double myself, right? So I have them do the things that I'm going to do. So if I'm working Thor's Hammer and I'm calling 30 realtors a week and I'm trying to build relationships with those agents, I want the VA to do it too. I want to double myself. I want to have double the amount of work done and tasks done. And it's the same with calling past clients. We have our VAs call our past clients. They do that with using phone burner, let's say. So I'm doubled. There's two of Richard's running around. And if I get a third VA, now there's three of me building business, getting more appointments, doing more follow-up, getting more people that are raising their hand that want to buy or sell or refinance. So that's kind of it in a nutshell. And there's so many things a VA can do to help you do that.
Hey, well, let's even talk about, well, first off, let me circle back to one thing. If you're looking for a VA, don't try to figure it out. Work with a crew that's already figured it out. So Richard and his team have done a great job at remoteassistantscout.com. Hey, and just real quick, what does it cost for somebody to help find you to help them find a VA? What is that?
So, well, all the vetting with the Freedom Club or the Marketing Animals, you get a $200 discount. So the total cost is $795. That's literally putting the team does everything, puts out ads, goes through resumes, goes through voice recordings, administers DISC assessments, really finds out who the best fit VAs are. They do the interviews, the team, and then you, as a loan officer that wants to hire a VA, you'll do the final interviews with the top 3 to 4 candidates until you get to choose who your VA is going to be.
Man, that's money well spent. And it's significant because what it's really doing is helping people build more margin. You can go figure it out, or you can work with a group that's already figuring it out for you. And so I love that. So don't try to do it on your own. Use somebody like Richard. They do a great job. Hey, but talk about, it's amazing when I hear all the different areas. Like, you have a VA that actually answers your office phone number, your office phone line when it rings. You have VAs that are doing administrative and clerical work, and there's VAs that are doing emails and templates and marketing. Even you sent me a checklist. Even for your events, they're following the checklist, setting up your leveraged events and the follow-up behind those leveraged events, and checking emails and sending out follow-ups. I mean, talk more about, somebody who says, well, what else does a VA do besides call? We don't want them calling all day. They're not effective doing that. So you spend 2 to 4 hours calling and 2 to 4 hours doing other things. What other things?
Yeah, you make a really good point to that, because let's look at Thor's Hammer. Let's calling and scheduling realtor appointments. It's not just doing that. It's all the things that they do pre-appointment and post-appointment. Same with realtor training classes that we do. It's setting everything up on the front end. It's doing all the reminders. It's, sending an email, phone call reminder, text reminder to make sure those agents show up at the coffee appointment or even the event. And then it's all the post tasks. We have checklists for Thor's Hammer, checklists for following, the events, social media, and they just follow the checklist. So let's say once you meet with an agent, there's a lot of things we have to do to follow up, and the VA can be part of that. They can friend request them on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram. They can set them up in the CRM, and they set up an email campaign to ensure they send an email from me, so it looks like it's coming from me, telling the agent how happy, what a great meeting it was, blah, blah, blah. So they're following these checklists. Same with the post meetings and everything else. It's crazy, but they do things to filter to make our lives easier. So you mentioned email. They go through my emails, they get rid of all the junk, and then they get rid of what they can handle. And then whatever I have to handle personally is left. So I might have 100 emails and there's only 8 when I open up because those are the 8 I need to handle. So it's filtering through there. It's working the social media. They can do that, everything on social media. Like we have every day 10 DMs go out to realtors telling them how much we appreciate them, and they're helping build those relationships. But the agents think it's me, but it's my VA doing that. They post, they comment, they like,
Wow.
all sorts of things. Yeah.
Well, and it's exactly what you said. You're just doubling and tripling your activity, but they're doing the behind the scenes, which really isn't, I mean, it's important that it's done, but who does it matters less. And
Right.
so, man, I just love it. I love the ideas. I love what they can do. Man, they can answer phones, outbound calls, administrate, market, social media, videos, editing. I mean, they could do it all. Just think about this. And I've been so impressed with the VAs in the quality of work. You know, it's easy to think, oh, it's just a VA. Brother, some of these people are college educated,
Most of them are.
business professionals that play at the highest level. The only difference is they're in the Philippines. And so it's pretty remarkable to see what a virtual assistant can help you with. So, hey, give us some more thoughts. Any closing thoughts on the power of using a VA or anything else you want to share? Maybe even some things that are working well.
Yeah, I wanted to add what you said, that most of them are college graduates. They just, in the Philippines, the cost of living is so different. What they make is like, let's just take, for example, minimum wage. It's like $1 in the Philippines, $1.25. And so for them to have the ability to work from home and make really good money, they get paid about $5, $6, $7 an hour US. So they're making great money. They get to work from home. And one of the big mistakes I want to touch on that a lot of us make is not including them into part of the team, because we got to realize they are a team member on our team. So every meeting that we have, the VAs are on there. They want to be part of that team. Like you mentioned earlier, my VA or my director of first impressions for the office, that is a VA in the Philippines, and she answers the phone, the same scripts. Is this a new file or a file in process? And she weeds through, or not weeds through, but she sent it to the right person, but she takes care of people so nobody has to wait. And she explains that we don't want anybody to wait. Richard's in an appointment right now, but let me get you Michael. Michael will be able to help you out with that. And so nobody's waiting. People are taken care of, and she does an outstanding job at it.
Well, and I love what you just said. You know, I think about Erwin, who has, if many of our members utilize the Focus 40 forms and some of the forms that have been standardized, he's actually a VA, a high level VA in the Philippines that has actually been the one helping us do all the standardization. They are remarkable. And just what a great reminder. Bring them into your team meetings, make them a part of your team. They're not some people hire them kind of like a contract for hire. But man, I'm a bigger fan of the more you bring them in, the more you treat them well. I know, like, it was interesting. Erwin, he has a real special place in his heart for an orphanage because his daughter passed away a few years ago. Well, guess what? We funded all of the Christmas gifts for the orphanage. And man, you talk about make a big difference and it made an impact. And so I just love that, man. I love what you're doing with the virtual assistants. I love all of the great feedback I'm hearing about you coaching members and just how much you're helping us get better in an area that is underutilized. And oftentimes people don't do anything with it because they just don't know where to start. And so I'm telling you, start with Richard, start with remoteassistantscout.com. He will give you great guidance and lead you. His team will lead you through the process. Hey, and one thing you said too, don't quit when you get a bad one. Don't quit whenever it doesn't work out. You know, I'm always reminded of that analogy. Just because you get a bad haircut doesn't mean you stop getting your haircut. You just go find a different barber. Same thing when you hire a VA that doesn't work out. Don't quit. Don't say, hey, it doesn't work. say, guess what? I'm going to keep going until I find the right person who's going to help me advance and double my efforts. So,
yeah, that's a really good point, because we tend to do that even with team members in house. We think we have to hold on to them. If it's not working, it's not working.
Yeah. Well, and the lesson learned this year is hire fast, fire even faster. Just keep moving. Don't settle. Find the right people. When you do, you'll continue to scale and advance faster.
Yeah. And we're hiring the unicorns. Those are the VAs that are getting hired.
I love it. Hey, any last closing thoughts, man?
Man, I just appreciate being on. It's an honor to be with you, Steve. And I love it. I love your podcast.
Well, I appreciate you. It is always great to spend time with my dear friend, Richard Smith. Allow him to help you in your business. Also, if you're considering coaching, you say, hey, I'd love to know. We do a sheet called Acts of Freedom. And what we recognize is, in order to do more, sometimes you got to take stuff off your plate. You got to figure out, what am I currently doing that somebody else can do? And I hear some of our listeners saying, well, I don't have anybody to help me do some of the things that need to be done. Great. Hire a VA, do them part-time, 4 hours a day. You can get a VA for $600 to $1,000 a month that can lift the activities off of you that are keeping you from doing the sales activity that moves the needle. And so I would challenge you, book a strategy call with our team. We'll walk you through the Acts of Freedom, which is, how do I start lifting these tasks that still need to be done, but somebody else can do off of me? Then connect with Richard about a VA and have him help you find somebody. And I'm telling you, within 2 or 3 weeks, you could literally be doing even more business without working more hours. And so go to freedomplanningcall.com. That's where our team, you give us a couple of pieces of information, and we'd love to book a strategy call with you to help walk you through. Tell them, say, hey, I want to go through the Acts of Freedom, and we'll walk you through it, help you build a 90-day plan. Get with Richard at Remote Assistant Scout and have them help you find a VA. And I promise you this, take action today. Don't wait till tomorrow. Take action today. And you can continue to have your best months ever, like we're seeing so many of our members do. And a large part is you got to get stuff off of you. VA is a great way to do that. So book a strategy call, freedomplanningcall.com. Go to Richard, have him help you get a VA, and you'll be well on your way to having an even better year. So, hey, and remember this, thank you for subscribing to the podcast. Remember to subscribe, share, and if you would, give us a great review. It always helps us in the rankings, and just appreciate you being on the journey. Remember this, anything worth doing is worth doing badly. Just get started. See ya.